Okay. Good evening. No touching. Okay. My name is Simcha Minkowitz. I live here in Crown Heights with my husband Zalman. Baruch Hashem, we have 7 children. The oldest is 16. She's here tonight. Thank you, M.U.S.T. And the youngest is 3 months old. They make us into better humans every single day. And in addition to that, I'm a partner with my husband in our jewelry store in Bar Park. So to say that life is busy is a major, major understatement. When people ask me to get involved in community events, I very quickly and politely decline. Like, I won't even be a class mother because I just can't. That was until I heard about M.U.S.T. From the moment I was introduced to M.U.S.T, the idea, the philosophy, I felt like I was literally handed a lifeline. I needed to be a part of it, my family needed it, the community needs it, and I needed to make time for it because it was important, and we make time for what's important. My family is the most precious thing in my life. It's the one thing I always put first. I can call teachers, I can find the best tutors, I can find the right physical therapist, explore the right after-school options for my kids. I'm what I'd like to call a dedicated mother, just trying to do the best that I can. There was one area that my husband and I felt like we were losing our grip, and that was technology. The dynamic force called technology, it literally can hold a family hostage in their very own home. I myself feel like my phone is constantly pulling me in a million directions. To put it down sometimes takes superhuman effort that I can't always access, how much more so for little kids. I can't even imagine that. Anyone else's kids ever just want to pet their phone? My kids just come and try and touch it and activate the screen, make sure the light goes on, like there's something magnetic that you can't explain. When our girls entered high school, we didn't really want to give phones, but it wasn't like we had a choice because everyone had one, EHO, everyone had one. And we were like, okay, so we put filters and we put, social media, and we thought we were okay, we thought we were good, we got this. And for the most part, we felt like everything was going okay. But then as soon as I started speaking with other people and other parents, we noticed this common denominator, this theme running, where kids just weren't connecting one with the other. Like where siblings weren't talking to their siblings. They were so busy just WhatsApping or on their phone or looking that they really weren't able to look at one another. Not to mention, like, they didn't really know what was happening in their little siblings' lives. Like, a little kid is a Shabbos Ima, no one knows. Like, we're just keep on scrolling. And then even more, I was hearing things that were even more sad, like kids having bar and bas mitzvahs and nobody really participating. One kid brought a phone, everyone standing around that one kid watching on a YouTube video while the mother and father worked tirelessly to make this beautiful event, and there's just nobody participating. And to me, it's just so devastating to watch, and so many parents had the same feelings. And just many parents, along with physicians, are noticing higher levels of stress, anxiety, tantrums, bullying. And for me, the saddest part looking around is seeing that the loss of childhood, like you can never get that back. Right now, kids in the community are getting phones as young as 3rd and 4th grade. It sounds crazy, but that's what's happening. Smart devices, so you name it, watches, tablets, phones, they have it. So back to that phone call, when they asked me to join, I was in hook, line, and sinker, so much so that I'm standing here tonight. So, like, that's what happened. So, M.U.S.T, put very simply, is agreeing to a pact with other moms in your child's class to stall the ownership of personal devices. We're not trying to take them away forever. We just are trying to stall it so that our kids can have the best childhood that we could possibly give them. It's important for me to emphasize that this is not a frum issue. Children all across the globe are suffering from the negative effects of technology, and specifically from owning their own devices from such a young age. This is not about less chassidish, more chassidish, from, not from. This is about healthy versus unhealthy. Every parent that I interact with says the same thing. It's affecting everyone. I wish I would not have given my child a phone. And the sad reality is, once you give it, you really can't take it back. Yeah. Up until now, I felt like even though I didn't want to give the phone, I would have to. But for my younger kids, I feel like there's a small glimmer of hope. I felt powerless to fight against this new norm, and now I'm feeling like maybe there is something we could do. I'm here to tell you that as a community, we have the opportunity and the power to create a new norm. Back in 2012, when Hurricane Sandy hit New York, another strong force made its way into our community. That was called Safety Kid. Another community project that I was proud to be part of. It was led by parents, executed by parents. This grassroots movement took an issue that we felt was beyond our control and educated children and empowered parents and teachers to create a safer culture for our families. Similarly, M.U.S.T is here to create a new norm, where as a community, we are empowered and in control. No longer making decisions based on fear or peer pressure, and at the same time allowing children to reclaim their childhood, giving them the opportunity to create happy and healthy relationships with their friends and family. With the Rebbe's brachas and with Hashem's help, may we merit to see the transformation in our community now. I'd like to take a minute to introduce Rabbi Mati Lipsker. He's a teacher and a mashpia in Crown Heights. Together with his wife Chanel, they run the Crown Heights Women's Circle. They are raising 6 children, Kanai Nahar, the oldest of which is 15 years old. Thank you.
There was once a plague that poisoned all the grain in a certain country. So at first, the poison affected, the people went crazy. First, it affected all the poor people because the only grain they had was that they could buy in the marketplace. Then all the wealthy people ran out of their storage houses and they had to buy new grain. Slowly but surely, the whole country was going crazy. The last 2 normal people to remain were the king and his closest advisor. The day came that they both had to eat from the grain. So they're sitting across from each other, and they said, "We know that we're normal. Everyone else around us is crazy. After we eat this, we're going to make a sign to signal each other to remind ourselves that we are normal." I just recently met a Yid, came out of prison after 15 years, 2006, just came out of prison, Erev Shavuos. He got a cell phone, and he was waiting 2 days after leaving prison. He's waiting online at the bank. He told me he's looking around, and 15 years, how much the world has changed. Every single person on the line was looking at a device. To the extent that in order to not be crazy, he took out his phone and started looking at it, although he didn't even know what to do with it. So we're here tonight as a beginning to start supporting each other and reminding each other, like you said, what norm is, the fact that we are normal. Even if we feel, we see there's so much craziness around us, and sometimes we feel like we're a part of the craziness, but we still have that reminder of what normalcy looks like and what it could look like, and the fact that we could make it the norm again. I would suggest that we start by giving ourselves a round of applause, because when we get home tonight, we're probably not going to get one from our kids, so... Talking about our kids, I could talk for myself and Zalman Minkowitz. Our daughters are thinking about starting their own organization. They even have a name, Dussim, Daughters United to Stole Mothers. And if I could say something to the kids, to my kids who are probably watching at home, and everyone else's kids if they'll see it now or later, and that is that, believe it or not, it's not easy to say no to your child. And it's extremely painful when we had to watch our daughter leave the house one night to go for practice, only to come home shortly afterwards because she was not told that practice was canceled that night, because she doesn't have WhatsApp. It's very difficult for us to watch you come home in tears, but we do it because it's the right thing, not because it's the easy thing. We learned in last week's parasha that the Eibusha tells Moshe Rabbeinu, tolerate the Yidden. Moshe Rabbeinu says, to what extent? And Hashem says, just like a father tolerates his child. Rashi says, a father will do what's right for his kid even when the kid is kicking and resisting. That's our job as adults. When we were growing up, we weren't charged with such a challenge as you are, the kids of today. But we believe that you could do this. Otherwise, we wouldn't expect it of you. As far as us parents, it's our job to be the grown-ups. And even when it's not easy, to be strong and to be confident that we're doing the right thing. This week's Parasha Shlach, Moshe Rabbeinu sends Meraglim into Eretz Yisrael. They come back with a report. And one of the things they said is, Vanehi ve'einenu kachagovim. We felt like grasshoppers. And they looked at us like grasshoppers. So it says in Chassidus, we felt in our eyes like grasshoppers. We felt like nothing. And that's why they viewed us that way. When children feel that we could just be convinced if we're nudged enough, and kids are very good at nudging, if they push hard enough, we're going to give in, then they will do that. We don't have to, this is not a fight. As much as it sounds as we're starting an anti-phone movement, it's less anti-phone and much more about pro-healthy children. When a child feels that, they feel that we're not a grasshopper, we're not a pushover, we're very confident in what we believe. Someone who's confident could handle a punch. Someone who's strong could handle that resistance. The children could scream and cry and talk about it, and that's normal, that's healthy. Not easy. What we're trying to do here is literally to shift an entire trajectory of a community and literally of a world. The Rebbe Rashab fought the Haskolov movement in Russia, which was a tremendous undertaking, talking about thousands of people opposed to one Rebbe. So the Rebbe and Rivka, his wife, asked him one day, why are you doing this? How far could you get? One person fighting so many thousands of people, such a big force. So the Rebbe Rashab said like this. He said, if a ship is sailing and it's off course, the most important thing to do is turn the ship in the right direction. It will be a while for it to sail and get back to on course. Turning the ship is the most difficult thing. What we're doing tonight is standing up here and having the courage to take that ship and give it a shift, turning in the right direction. And Mirz Hashem, we will see the results. And it's not just for Crown Heights. If I could be as bold as saying, what happens in Crown Heights does not stay in Crown Heights. Because this week is Parshas Shlach, we read the Haftarah, we read about another set of Meraglim. Yeshua sent Meraglim into Yericho, the first city they were going to conquer. Why did they first conquer Yericho? So the Medrash says it was Man'ula Shel Eretz Yisrael. It was the key to the whole land. Why? So the Alter Rebbe says because Yericho was unique. The people living in Yericho were not one nation. All nations lived in that one city. If you strengthened Yericho, the whole country felt strong. If you weakened Yericho, everybody felt vulnerable. Crown Heights is that kind of place. We used to say as Bachrim in Yeshiva, in Oliteida, the whole world is afraid of a mouse. What's the math? It's Oliteida math. The whole world looks up to humans. Humans look up to Jews. Jews look up to from Jews. From Jews look up to Chassidim. Chassidim look up to Lubavitch. Lubavitch looks up to the Bachrim. The Bachrim look to Oliteida. Oliteida looks up to Shir Dalet. Shir Dalet looks up to Reb Nachman. Reb Nachman looks up to his wife, and his wife is afraid of a mouse. I'm sure his wife is a very nice lady. All jokes aside, it's called M.U.S.T, Mothers Unite. I see a lot of men came. Ashkayach to them. It's actually interesting. When Moshe Rabbeinu sent the Meraglim into Eretz Yisrael, it says, Shlach lecha anashim, send men. So the Kli Yakar says an amazing thing. Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu, if you want to send men, that's l'daitcha. My opinion is you should send women. Because women are the ones who have a chavivus for Eretz Yisrael. They're going to come back with a good report. He says another thing. Moshe Rabbeinu was afraid to send women because women are too talkative. They're dabronius. What was the end? When the women got a chance to talk about Eretz Yisrael, they just couldn't have enough nice things to say. When the men had a chance to talk, they didn't have enough negative things to say. The Rebbe once wrote to a Rav in Lubavitcher Chassid in Tel Aviv, Rabbi Heber, and he said, I want to encourage your efforts within a Sheikh Chabad over there. And one of the reasons is because Nashim are dabroniyes and askoniyes. Women are talkative and women are active. If you want something to get done in your city, it has to come through the women. The women know how to settle Eretz Yisrael, which every single one of our home is a small miniature Eretz Yisrael. Where does that leave us, the men? We also have an organization. It's called DUST. Dads Unite to Stall Technology. For two reasons. Number one, I'm talking from what parents talk about themselves. So this one mother says she would actually like very much not to give her children, even her high schoolers, smartphones, but the father insists. In such situations, we have to be like dust on the floor, disappear. Let her do her thing. In other cases, a father tells me he has great ideas for his wife. Don't give anybody this, don't give anybody that. There's no smartphones, there's no video games, garnished. Go back to reading books. She tells her husband, you're not home the whole day. You don't know what it's like. I'm bored. In such cases, we have to be like dust. We have to be support as much as we can to try to support their good efforts. So to end off with, the Rebbe Rashab was once in Frankfurt, Germany, Frankfurt the Main. And he met over there with the Rav. The Rav called in an elderly woman, and he said, I want you to meet this woman. What's the story? The story is that in Frankfurt, Germany, for hundreds of years was a very stronghold of Yiddishkeit, with some of the most illustrious Rabbonim were in Frankfurt the Main. Then came the Haskalah movement led by Mendelssohn, and he literally destroyed Frum Yiddishkeit in Frankfurt. You could barely count on one hand the amount of Frum Yidden that remained. Vayhi Hayoim came Reb Shamshon, Rafal Hirsch moved into Frankfurt the Main, and he opened up a small Talmud Torah. One for young boys, one for young girls. Every year he added a class, and he added a class. Came the first graduating class of the girls. They graduated first, and 3 of them were about to get married. And he asked these 3 girls to commit to keeping kosher homes, covering their hair, and Taras HaMishpacha. As a result, other people followed, and other people followed, and they literally changed the whole city. This Rav turned to Rebbe Rashab and said, this woman who you're looking at is one of the 3 mothers of Frankfurt the Main. The Rebbe repeated this several times with regard to Neshei Chabad, the power that they have. Baruch Hashem, tonight, even just sitting right here, we're a lot more than 3 mothers. We're hundreds of fathers and mothers. Mirz Hashem, we won't have to wait 50 years to see the results, but very soon the Rebbe will be able to walk in and introduce us as the mothers, as the fathers, and as the children. Like the Rebbe said, the boys and the girls, Bnei Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Bnei Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah, who had the courage to change the course of the Rebbe's ship, and by way of doing that, changing the Mirz Hashem, the course of the Yiddish world and the whole world. The world should be a healthier place, a happier place, a place that's ready to greet Mashiach maybe now. Thank you.
Mamshich in Kris Atele von Jem Hasheni, was de Meile von Yitzchak in Lejachli wer bekommen de Chino von so von Avram und Weisar. Na Soros gleich abgegeben mit den Chino. Noch mehr, wie viel Avram hat getan in dem, wo das ist sich also Alpitera, der erste Jahren von ein Kind, und der Hemmscher, ich sag dir, dass ich dort das Mann, was ist, zorich liime, sorge liime. Und befragt noch, als bei Avrom ist Avreva Chesed, ist beim Gewinn der Kabakosche, Lui Shmuel, Yichele von Necho, und der Soro hat gleich bewohnt, als soll sein der Inyan, Alei Yirash, zusammen im Bni, im Yitzchok, der Farbe, dass er bei Yitzchok, Yikore Lecho Zora. Und das ist gleich Madgish in Reish Hashona, der beide in Yone. Als war die Shem Poke des Soro, der Farbe Soro hat gebeten und hat geteinet mit der ganzen Starkheit, bis zu den Wörtern, was sie gesagt zu Avromen, und Lecha, für was gleich nicht misspallel gewesen, was sie so gewesen, Aisha, Kshero, Eser, 10 Beile. Wie kommt er sagen zu Avromen, Asami, Sort Nusach, if die Schaße rät sich wegen Hoben a jüdischen Kind und mechanisch sein mit a jüdischen Kind, ist auch demol stellt man sich nicht auf und bechol Drochim, wo sie sein in Darke Tela, wo sie sein Tage Droche Darke Nea, bechol Nesiviseo Scholim, tut man aber in See Gufe mit a Techev, Alpi Telo, und unter demol tfit man es, aber Yitzchok Yikore Lecho Zora. mit Chanechel Nar, wo dämmelt die Gamke Jaskin bei Yosser Mimenu, verbunden mit dem Chinuch, was mit Chilas Hashonim hängt das auf an der Isha, an der Mutter, ki mevui Barlo, Bahaloch, bis mit Miserta Sechet, Meisera, wenn Chaye Jem Je. Und bei Pashtus meint man es, wenn geht zur Mutter und zur Mechaneches und Madriche. Als Pi, was wenn geht zu einem Kind, ist dort beide in Jone. Darf haben da Achille und Stie, wie Schiene, mit der alle in Jone, bis viele Aine, shall Shashuyim, kedei soll sein Gesinnter und soll sich können gräten. Das, was darf mit Malle sein Schlichus, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Beilome, wenn das wächst. ביחד עם זה, זה aber echt dort der Schlichus. Und in dem Chinuch, was sie zu mechanisch sein, in den Unionen של Shomayim.
Hi, Dr. Rosen. With tremendous dedication for more than 35 years, Dr. Rosen has devoted himself tirelessly to taking care of our community's health. Together with Neshama's organization, Dr. Rosen is focusing on supporting the mental health and emotional health and well-being of our community members, especially our children. In and out of his office, it is important for us to hear directly from him how this is affecting our precious children.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. A nice crowd. It's actually, thank you. It's actually with a lot of pain that I stand here tonight. I have this wonderful privileged position where I see hundreds of our children, our youth, our young adults come through my office, and I get 15 minutes, 20 minutes, a half an hour to talk to them. So I'm in the trenches, and I'm looking, and I'm listening. And all of a sudden, I'm seeing something I never saw before, and it's frightening. I'm seeing what I'm going to call an epidemic of anxiety in the children. I'm seeing 11-year-old with anorexia. I'm seeing 13-year-olds not going to school. And these are kids from beautiful families. These aren't neglectful parents. And when I ask, why aren't you going to school? Because I'm so stressed, I'm so anxious, I don't sleep at night, I don't eat properly. I can't possibly think straight going to school. I feel better staying home and sleeping. And I'm seeing 15-year-olds who are frankly suicidal. It's very, very profound and very disturbing. I don't have all the answers. I surely don't have all the answers. I wish I had the answers, and I wish I could plug the cure in, like doing a throat culture and giving penicillin. It's not that. The answers are deep. Yes, we miss Epidemic Rebbe. Yes, we've been through a terribly traumatic year and a half. Terrible. Yes, being at home on a computer instead of in school with classmates has been very costly. But these are things we can't do anything about. We can't change those things. There's something else that for a while has struck me. And it strikes me first when a mother walks into the office with a 2-year-old, and the 2-year-old is nervous, of course, or a 3-year-old is nervous. And the first move is, let me get a video for you, and this screaming child becomes immediately calm. And God forbid the mother should try and take the phone away from the child. Keilu subrokim. This surrogate, I think that's where the beginning of the disconnect lies. As far as I'm concerned, the most important cause of anxiety is disconnection. You all, or most of you, certainly have marriages and families. When you experience disconnection from your spouse, there's this real deep sense of discomfort and anxiety that enters into your heart. You don't sleep well at night. You don't eat well. Disconnect, I believe, is at the root of the epidemic of anxiety and all of its manifestations, some of which I mentioned. And one of the powerful drivers of disconnection is the cell phone. Kids in school need to be happy, learning, playing, and not worrying. Kids should have nothing. The Rebbe's words ring in my ears. It was beautiful to watch the Rebbe, thank you. The Rebbe's words ring in my ears about children needing to worry about their schoolwork only. The most important thing that a child should worry about is the test that's coming up. And even that should be underplayed, not overplayed. And all of a sudden, the kids are worrying about everything. They're exposed to tremendous amounts of sadness. If somebody dies in Australia, unfortunately, the kids know about it. Some 8-year-old, God forbid, gets sick and dies. The kids are involved. Why should they be involved? Why should an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old be worrying themselves sick? Sick, and when I say sick, I mean sick. And then where is their attachment? to this? Where does their comfort come from? This? This is not a source of comfort. This is a source of increased anxiety. Even us adults get anxious from this. So, what does this surrogate have to offer? Discord? Open up COL today. Go into the comments section. The most benign article. Boy, people are at each other. 1, 2, 3. You can't say anything without somebody saying you have no idea what you're talking about. And I know this and you know that, and they're the personal discord that goes on. The personal discord, the negativity that's expressed between one Jew and another, between brother and sister. The pressure, the social network that becomes available through the cell phone exerts tremendous pressure. What I don't have, Instagram, look at my new shoes. Whatever it is, what I don't have, the peer pressure. And I'm not saying anything about the online or social network bullying that goes on, which is, yes, technology can be used for Torah. Unfortunately, our kids are, I don't think, spending too much time on their cell phones learning. Some of us do, and it's wonderful to be able to pull out your cell phone and do your chittas or do whatever else you can. It's right here in your pocket, and you have access to immense amounts of Torah. That's wonderful. That's not what's happening. You know, when it comes to alcohol, we know that if you expose a 15-year-old to alcohol and to getting drunk, it imprints in a certain way that is different to a 25-year-old getting drunk. Not that I want anyone to get drunk, but the effect on a young brain is very different. That brain is plastic, not elastic. It deforms. It doesn't return to its natural state. It's my contention, and I may be wrong, but let's give it a chance and see if I'm right and push this agenda and see if we can help. But it's my contention that early, constant exposure to cell phones, to smartphones in particular, because that opens up the whole world. And I'm not talking about porn and all the really bad stuff, which is way out there, and the boys are desperately troubled by that. But I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about the mundane day-to-day stuff, the disconnect that happens. The disconnect that happens at dinner time when everyone's on their phone. The disconnect that happens when kids should be playing and having a good time and they're involved in controversy and argument and disagreement and bad news. Difficult things to take. So it's my contention that early exposure, starting at that 2-year-old that comes into the office that gets, instead of mommy's attention reading a book, used to be, I had a whole stack of books in the waiting room, and the mother would come into the office and take one of the books and sit and read the kid a story. And when the mother closed the book because she had to give me the history, that's when the kid got nervous, and then the mother gave the child the book and the child sat and looked at the pictures. We've changed the paradigm. We've now connected the child to this instead of the book, instead of his mother's voice, instead of the calming, quieting. Self-quieting is a skill that all kids need to learn, and that self-quieting skill has now been replaced by the cell phone quieting the kids. I think it's time enough, and this meeting initiates that we should all look at this and see that our cell phones have been a failed experiment when it comes to exposing our children to it. We need to start. We need grassroots. We have to build a momentum. As Marty said, Crown Heights is a driver. We need to build a momentum that everybody can see. Everybody can see what it is, for what it is, can see what it's doing to the kids, and I don't think there's a single person over here and a single thinking person outside that can actually tell me they think the cell phone is good for their children. So why on earth are we giving it to them? It's like serving a 10-year-old vodka. You wouldn't in your wildest dreams do that. But we need the strength together. You can't, when your child comes to you and says, all of my friends have it and blah, 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 and you're a wicked mother for not giving it to me, or you're bad parents, etc., there's no group support. This is the opening shot of that, and I wish us all lots of strength to try and get this agenda accomplished and stall, delay cell phone use until those brains are elastic, can be pulled out of shape, and get back to where they need to be without being deformed in the process. Good luck, everybody.
About to die, and I'm not really sad about it. Let's face it, you're emotionally unavailable. You always were. And that really messes with me. Up here. Why do I have to compete with you for attention? That's just weird. You want me to shut up? Okay, I'll shut up. I just want to say, I really do love you. You do give me a lot of attention. I mean, you can be very funny sometimes, even with your boundary issues. Yeah, sometimes you share with me stuff that is TMI. I don't even know what to make of it all. I think sometimes you forget that I'm just a kid.
I was just a kid, and you kind of stole my childhood. Always messing with my head. Oh, look what she's doing. Look what she's wearing. Why don't you be more like her? And you know what? As much as I laughed at it, it really hurt me inside. Why wasn't I good enough just being me? But you know what? I'm done with you. I'm gonna stop faking it every second of the day. Maybe that will lift me out of this depression. Yes, depression that you caused. Yes, you're so controlling, degrading, and you really messed me up. I hate you.
Why is it always about you?
You know I really love you, right? I'm sorry. I really wouldn't know what to do with myself without you. But if I could do it over, my younger self would tell you straight up.
Get out of my life right now. You're not good for me. You know what? I'm just gonna let you die. I pulled the plug myself. See the charger? I know you really want it.
We'll figure it out.
We have the honor to have Michal Clarer here and her mother, her support, and Michal and her partner, her co-founder, Nachi Eisenstadt, started M.U.S.T 4 years ago in other communities around the U.S. With incredible success. We have the honor to hear from Michal tonight and to tell us about the amazing program, what inspired her to start this, and the successes of the program and how we can implement it here in our own community. Welcome, Michal.
Hi. I just want to start by saying that I am amazed by your community and a little envious, because what you're doing here, I think, is setting you up for really amazing success. To do this as a whole is amazing. Okay, so that was a lot, and I totally understand the feelings that you're all feeling, wanting to do something. I had the same feeling just about 4 years ago. We had arranged a summer conference up in the mountains. Dr. David Pelkowitz was coming to speak to the women up there. We do a conference every summer. And the topic that we usually choose is something that the community is having a hard time with. And we decided that the topic was going to be, but everyone has one. And he was going to come and speak to us. The night before the conference, I was having a hard time sleeping, and I was going over in my head, what in the world could he possibly say to help us? We're in such a mess. And I was tossing and turning and thinking about my older kids, who I'd given devices to already. I was in between that stage and my younger kids, who didn't yet have devices, and I was wondering if there was any way that I could prevent them from getting devices. At which point I said to myself, how did this happen? Why did I give my older kids devices, and am I going to have to give my younger kids devices? And I was sitting and thinking, and I said, I did it because there was so much pressure. Their friends were getting them, or that's what I heard. All my friends have one. And it was too hard to say no. And I said, it's so unfair. Why are those other mothers so silly to give their kids devices? Because of them, now I have to do it. And then I said, whoa, 1 second. Maybe they also don't want to give their kids devices, but they're doing it because everybody else is doing it. At which point I said, why don't we all get together and decide together that we don't want our kids to have devices, and none of us will feel that pressure to get our kids devices. It seemed really simple. So the next morning, after not getting much sleep, Dr. Pelkowitz came and he sat in my bungalow before he went to go speak, and he was drinking his cup of coffee. And I said, he's a very, very wise man, and I was a little intimidated to present my solution, which seemed so simple. And I asked him, can I ask you, I have a crazy idea. And he said, sure, I would love to hear it. And I told him what I was thinking, and I said, how about if I just get in touch with the other mothers in my kids' class, and I say, why are we all doing this? Does anybody else want to be doing this? Because I really don't want my kids to have devices. And then maybe we can all get together and together say, let's hold off. And he said, I absolutely love your idea. I love it so much that when I go up to speak in a half an hour, I'm going to be introducing you, and I want you to present this program today. And I was like, ooh, okay. We didn't even have a name. I was sitting next to a friend, and I said, okay, quick, we need a name. We're going up right now. And she said, we're calling it M.U.S.T. Mothers Unite to Stall Technology. The hashgacha was really amazing because we didn't have much time to think it through. But the verbiage is so perfect because what the other speakers were saying, we're not saying we're never going to have technology. We're not saying that our kids won't eventually have it. All we want to do is stall. We want to hold it off for a little longer and a little longer and a little longer until their precious little brains develop and they learn how to play with their friends and they learn how to talk and to communicate. And that's all we want to do. All we want to do is hold off and stall for a little bit. So that was what I presented that day. And I think I did something a little risky, but I think I might do it again. And that was that I said to the women in the room, I want to take a survey. I want to ask that everybody in the room, if you fit into either one of these two categories, please raise your hand. Category number 1, if your child doesn't yet have a device and you would like to hold off for as long as possible, please raise your hand. Keep your hands up. If your child does have a device and you wish that you wouldn't have gotten it for them and that you would have held off, please raise your hand. Okay, keep your hands up. Everybody please look around, okay? Men's section, the ladies section, I don't think there's any hands that are not up. If I can't see them if they are, okay? So what I want you to take from this survey, this happened exactly the same thing 4 years ago, by the way. And I want you to take from this that you have the power to do this. We're all in this together. We all feel the same way. We're giving in because other people are giving in, but nobody else wants to be giving in, so let's all stop giving in. And then we can hold off and let our kids develop in a healthy way. Now, nobody else could do this for us, okay? We've come to this discovery. The schools have tried. The rabbis have tried. The mental health professionals have tried. And at this point, I think that we've come to realize that if the parents are not going to do it, I'm sorry that we call it must. We can add on dust to the website. But if the parents are not going to do this, nobody's doing this for us. Our kids are so precious to us. We're the only ones that can actually make a difference. Now, I want to explain something to you. The schools have really tried, okay? And I want to tell you 4 reasons why what the school did not work and why what M.U.S.T does work, okay? Number 1, schools are free to make rules for their 9 to 5 hours. That's what parents feel. You want to tell my kid what uniform to wear. You want to tell them what their behavior has to be during the school day. Whatever you want to do during school hours, that's fine. But once it comes to after school, it's really don't tell me what to do. Okay? This is how a lot of parents feel. Issue number 2, when a school makes a rule, it's generally a blanket rule, grades 1 through 8, or kindergarten through 8. Okay? So that's a big problem, because an issue that a kindergarten or a first grader is having is totally a joke to somebody who's in 7th or 8th grade, and an issue that a 7th or 8th grader is having is completely irrelevant to the kindergarten or first grader. Problem number 2. Now we're on to 3. The third problem is that by the time the schools realize that there's an issue, this is what's been happening over the last few years, they make the rule, and the issue has already spread. And it's too late. They make a rule of something that's already pretty widespread and is already a problem. So it's really hard to implement a rule that already happened. Especially, one of the concepts of M.U.S.T is that you can't go back. But I'll explain that in a minute. The fourth thing is that when you have a school rule that comes against peer pressure, so the school makes a rule, but you're being pressured by your kid because the whole class doesn't listen to the school rule, but everybody has one, most of the time parents are not strong enough to stick with the school rule. They'll rather give in to the peer pressure, and they'll give their kids a device. Okay, so those are the 4 issues that we've had in schools trying to make rules. How does M.U.S.T differ? I'm going to tell you with each one of these 4 things how we have a different plan and why it works so much better. The first one, the parents don't like the school to make the rules. M.U.S.T is completely parent-driven. We decide what we want for our kids. Nobody's telling us what to do. The second one, the schools make blanket rules through 1 through 8. M.U.S.T is very, very tailored to each class, to each grade, to whatever's going on in that particular class. Very not blanket. The third one is making the rules too late. M.U.S.T, like I said before, M.U.S.T deals with the reality of what's going on right now. M.U.S.T has a concept, I'm sorry to tell you because it will be a little disappointing for those of you that don't know, is that it is very, very difficult to take something away that your child has already gotten used to. If you already gave your kid a device, it's nearly impossible to go back. So that's another thing that's different between the rules, the decisions that we make and the rules that the school sets up. And the last thing is that when we're talking about the parents having to give into the peer pressure versus the rules, we are taking the peer pressure and we are completely flipping it around and making it into a positive peer pressure. The peer pressure to be like everybody else who doesn't have a device. And when your kid comes home and said, but everybody, no, sweetheart, everybody doesn't. The mommies in the class actually got together and we all decided that we're so happy for you to play outside and talk to friends. So those are the 4 reasons that the M.U.S.T program works better than school rules. Okay, now I'm going to explain how the program works. Just as background, the program that we're talking about stalling, we specifically are referring, and you can do it how you want because it's tailor-made for however you choose. We allow a lot of flexibility. But we are referring to personal devices, which means we're not telling you can never let your kid use any technology in the house. We're not telling you can't let them watch videos. We're not telling you they can't do something on your phone. That's obviously your decision. What we are suggesting is do not get your kid their own personal device. Once they have their own device, it's downhill really quick. They take ownership of it. They do things with it that, they don't have to ask you for permission when they use it. It's theirs. You don't even get to look at it and see what they're doing on it. And like Simcha mentioned before, another just background concept is I wanted to tell you also and echo what she said, that this is not a Jewish concept. And shortly after we created this program, we discovered that there was another program that was extremely similar to ours called Wait Till 8th. It's a program in the Midwest that a bunch of mothers started, not Jewish, and their concept is exactly like ours. They sign a pact to hold off until 8th grade or the end of 8th grade to get their kids' devices. So this has nothing to do with Jewish, religious, nothing. Okay, I'm going to explain the program in two parts, just to keep it very clear and brief. I'm going to explain the easy, ideal way to set up the program, and I'm going to explain the a little bit harder and less fantastic way to do it, okay? The best way to set up this program is when your child is young, okay? Like young enough that the other parents in the class might say to you, really? Of course they don't have devices. That's exactly the words you want to hear. Because when you're in a situation where nobody in the class has a device, your pact will be a joke to set up. I'll just give you a personal example. I did this for my daughter, who is now in fourth grade, and we did it when she was going into first. And the mothers at first were like, this is such a silly conversation. But you know what? There are fourth grade classes now that have devices, lots of them, and our class is not even talking about it. Not one kid has asked, because we did this when they were young, and there was no anybody fighting back. The kids they didn't know about it. They were like young, and there was no concept of, Ma, what are you doing? Or anything along those lines. And it was super simple, because sometimes when a couple of kids in the class have a device, those mothers feel uncomfortable with their decision, and it's very hard to get a pact in the class, because there's a lot of feelings that you're playing around with, and it's hard to make a pact when there are people that have and people that haven't. And when you start very young, it's literally a joke. So that is number one. Now, what it's going to look like in that sort of class is you're going to agree to make a pact. You can look on the website. It's themustproject.org. We recommend something called the preferred pact, which is the pact that you can make if there's no technology yet in your class. It basically is an agreement to hold off from all technology, your child having any sort of device, for as long as possible. You'll continue to do check-ins with your class. We usually recommend twice a year. Are we still all on the same page? Let's continue this. Does everybody want to carry it out for another year? And that's what the preferred pact looks like. There are plenty of options to add on to it. Like different tailor-made things that you want to maybe, make an agreement in the class that at a certain time there's no more technology at all. There's plenty of options. But that's what the best option for you is to start this young, okay? Once there's technology involvement in the class, even if it's a small percentage, it gets much more complicated, okay? But at the same time, I will not discourage you. There are still options to do the program. And I will explain to you what they are, but they come with a caveat that I'm going to tell you at the end of the description of what you can do, okay? If your class already has a technology involvement, then what we recommend is, it's called a pause pact, P-A-U-S-E, to pause. Wherever your class currently is, stop. Say, we are not going past this point. The reason it's complicated is because your class may be at many different points. So you could make a two-tiered pact. It's complicated. That's why I'm encouraging you, the younger, the better. And when I say younger, I say pre-1A, first grade, elementary school, young elementary school. So now you have this class that has, already classroom technology involvement. So what you're going to do is you're going to figure out a spot, the best, most comfortable spot that everybody can pause. I'll just give you an example. It might be that the kids have devices, but they have no social media. So you as a class will get together and discuss, let's all agree that we're not going to progress to social media. Our kids are on their devices. We allow them to take pictures. They text, but let's pause. Because what happens with technology, and anybody who has a kid that has a device knows this, technology naturally progresses. This week they will have one thing. Next week they're going to ask you for something else. They're going to have more apps. And the only way that it doesn't progress is if you actively stop it. So having a pause pact may not look very different, because things will stay the same as they were, but it will be different as compared to a class that has no pact. In 2 years, you will look much better than a class that has no pact, okay? And The second thing that you can do in this sort of situation when there is already involvement of technology in the classroom is what we recommend is come up with the options of making a pact of things that you can do to reduce or eliminate the peer pressure. In other words, respect thy neighbor. You allow your child to do certain things at home. Let's try very, very hard to not make it contagious. Let's make different agreements that we can hold it back, and you want to have it in your house, that's okay. But let's be respectful of other people's rules and other people's boundaries, and let's allow them the ability to make decisions without having your decisions pressure them to make decisions, okay? I'm going to give you some examples just to make it a little bit more clear of what I mean by this, okay? So these are some agreements that different classes have done that reduce or eliminate peer pressure. 1, no devices should be brought to other people's homes. If your child is going to visit somebody, the agreement in the class is don't bring any devices when you're visiting somebody else. Number 2, no devices come out when you're hosting. If your kid has a friend over, also keep this the same way we used to do in the old days. If you would call a mother and ask her, can your kid watch this video? You don't let people's kids watch things in your house without permission. Don't bring out devices without permission. No devices at get-togethers. I heard that sad story about a bat mitzvah or a bar mitzvah that nobody was even participating because they were on devices. That's this concept. Do not allow the kids to have their devices at get-togethers, at school events. Another piece that some people did is an agreed-upon curfew of what time the technology goes off. If the kids already have devices, let's at least all agree that by whatever, I don't know what age we're talking about, so it depends on the age, let's agree that by 9:30, everybody shuts it down. That helps because at least you know that you're all in agreement that the phone goes off at a certain time. And in addition, if there's like some kids that are not allowed to stay on or some kids that don't have any devices at all, and if there's a class chat going on all night, this helps to reduce the peer pressure by shutting it all down at the same time. Another thing is an agreement to not have the device sleep in the kid's bedroom. If they already have a device, let's at least agree as a class it doesn't get charged or sleep in their room with them. Another one this is a very powerful one. No class chats. Yes, the kids have devices, but once there's a class chat, kids who don't have devices are very left out, and why should you impose your beliefs on everybody else? And the last thing is that if your child is allowed to do certain things in your home, for example, like multiplayer games, like Fortnite, something like that, encourage your kid and say, listen, we're okay with it. We're okay to let you play it. That's our decision. Don't go to school and talk about it with everybody else. Don't talk to the other 2 kids whose mothers let them, and all the other kids are hearing and saying, what's that? And let's keep our stuff in our own homes, and let's respect other people's boundaries, okay? I told you that I was going to include a caveat here. Very often, when the classes have more technology involvement, it's usually because they're a little older, hopefully. Another piece comes in when the class is a little older, which is that you have to realize that when the kids are older, they sometimes have a little bit of an issue of you getting involved and making a pact in the class. Like if your kid's already in 7th grade, it could be that they're going to be like very embarrassed that their mother is organizing and getting a meeting together and setting up what pact we're making. And it's dangerous. So my caveat is that if you're risking your relationship with your child, don't do it. Your relationship with your child is more important than making a pact and holding back the technology. You'll do other things. You'll empower the kids to do things on their own, but don't get involved if it's going to cause an issue with a relationship with a child. I just want to give you a story just to strengthen this point because it really, really is super important, which is why we encourage, again, do this as young as possible because the older they get, the more complicated it gets. A particular mother decided in her class, she heard the boys were starting to do Fortnite. This was in an 8th grade. And it was in a 9th grade. And she sent out to the class chat, between me and you, quietly, are there a lot of mothers that are okay with this Fortnite game? I don't know if everybody knows what Fortnite is, but there's a lot of other games that are like it. It's basically a game that you can connect with other kids that you know and kids that you don't know and adults that you don't know and you don't realize that they're adults, and you connect with strangers, and it's very, very addictive. In addition, so there's several issues with this game, and there are many others like it. They're called multiplayer games. And this mother presented to the class, do other mothers also have a hesitation? Maybe we should make an agreement. It was pre-must. Maybe we should make an agreement that let's just not let the boys play. And lots of the mothers were in agreement. That sounds great. Thanks so much for bringing this up. The mother who presented this on the class chat, Her son came home from school, and a couple hours after he came home from school, and these kids already had devices, was chatting with his kids, with his friends, texting back and forth, and he came to his mother extremely angry with a picture on his phone, a screenshot of the chat, of the mother's chat, and he said to his mother, "Why'd you do this to me?" And apparently, one of the mothers allowed their child use of their phone, and he was surfing and checking out what his mother was up to, and he took a picture of the conversation and sent it to his friend, whose mother presented it. This story happened to me. This was my son, and it took a long time to repair this relationship. Thank God it is in a much, much better place. We're great now. But I just want you to know that this is something to be very cautious of. And it's an encouragement to start the program younger also. I'm not saying you can't do it older, just be careful, okay? And like I think Rabbi Lipsker was saying, I can't remember who it was, but you really have the power right now to change the status quo. It takes time and it takes patience, and you're not going to see the changes immediately. But if we can go from the norm being kids starting to get devices in fill in the blank, every community is different, in whatever grade it is, if we can blast this to the pre-1A, first grade, second grade, the grades that it's still applicable to, third grade, fourth grade, our communities could look different in a few years. It's slow progress, but it's huge. It's a complete change. It's the changing of the course of the ship. It's brilliant. You can do it, and you just have to be empowered, and don't give up. It is a success if you hold it off by 1 year. Everything is a success. Don't give up. Push and hold tight, and it's worth every second. I want to address a question that's come up a few times, because I think this is really important. A few parents have expressed the concern, if I gave my older kid a phone, and I gave my second kid a phone, when they were both in 9th grade, how can I, or whatever grade you gave it in, how can I tell my next kid, I'm not giving it to you? It's not fair. I made a deal. I made it with the other ones. How can I not give it to my next one? And I'm going to answer with a story. If you were serving your children a certain type of bread from the time that they were little, and you gave it to your first child, and you gave it to your second child, and you gave it to your third, and when your fourth child was in kindergarten, you found out that this bread had a certain toxin in it that wasn't good for your kids. There was something about it that was making your children sick. Would you continue to give the bread to your kid just because you gave it to the other kids? I don't think so. I think you would say to your kids, sweetheart, I love you so much. If I would have known this bread was bad, I never would have given it to the older kids. I didn't know. Mommies make mistakes. And that's exactly the same conversation you can have with a device. We made mistakes. We learned. This is like Dr. Rosen was saying, this is an experiment gone bad. We didn't know. We didn't know that it was so bad. And now we know. And sweetie, I love you so much. I'm not going to give you something that's going to hurt you. Okay. I want to leave you with the success stories, okay? I asked some of the mothers to send me in quotes from some of the schools and the classes that have started, and I want to give you some success stories, but I want to repeat, success is everything is success. Any little bit that you can stall and hold off is a huge success. Okay, success story number 1. I presented the M.U.S.T program to my daughter's class right before 6th grade. Parents thanked us with tears because some were about to cave. The class held out from even one girl getting a device till almost the end of 8th grade. Then Corona hit. Oh well, but what a huge success. This is like a theme a little bit, like Corona really made things difficult. So let's hope that moving here forward, you're not gonna have, God forbid, something that's gonna cause such a difficulty. But the moms of my daughter's friends in other schools were blown away and a little envious. This class held off for 2.5 years, okay? From the mom of a current 8th grader, the M.U.S.T program was so successful. We started in 5th grade. The class 2 grades above my daughter's already had chat starting in 6th grade. And because of M.U.S.T, our class had no group texts or chat situations until Corona. I think because of M.U.S.T, even with Corona, many still don't have their own devices because the mothers knew they were on the same page. I want to mention that. That's huge. Just knowing that other mothers are on the same page as you makes a huge difference. Mom of a 4th grader in a community where many 4th graders already have devices. I don't feel any pressure from Atara's grade, and I'm sure it has to do with M.U.S.T. So good we did it when they were young, going into 2nd grade. Okay, that's when they did it. My son is in 6th grade. We made a pact almost 3 years ago to not get the boys their own devices. One of the mothers suggested also agreeing not to let them play multiplayer games like Fortnite, etc. I wasn't even sure then why it was bad, but she had older boys, so she knew better. Wow, these boys in our class play football on Fridays and arrange class baseball games in the park on their own on Sundays. That is amazing. After a few mothers, this is what I'm telling you about updating. After a few mothers recently started to allow their sons to play a multiplayer game, the class updated the pact because most of the class did not want to play games. They didn't want their kids to play games. The class updated the pact that the games would not be a topic to be discussed with classmates. That was where I got that suggestion from this class. Okay, the last one. Mother of an 8th grade girl. Okay, she said, M.U.S.T gave me the freedom to make decisions for my daughter without the pressure of everyone else has. So this was a success story actually in 8th grade. So there is hope. There is hope. And I feel like if anybody can do it, it's you. So now it's time for Crown Heights to go off and try and do your thing. And you guys can now create your own success stories, and I can't wait to hear about them.
So we don't want to brag, but Crown Heights has our own success stories right now. M.U.S.T has actually launched in over 40 classes in Crown Heights. This is huge. I want to take a minute to ask people to go to our website, must-ch.org. For whoever's watching at home, please make sure to sign in using the link below. We have already seen small successes, such as kids playing together. One of the mothers came out and said, we made a pact with your class. Please put away the device. And the kids actually sat around and had normal kid fun. So that's one small success story that we got. There's high schoolers who thought at first that this was the most outlandish idea are now saying things like, it would be kind of cool to just hang out with our friends. That's like, hello. Okay, every single one of us put so much effort into finding the best Rebbe, the best Mora, putting our kids in the best yeshiva, and trying to create the best chinuch for our kids. So I think, and I know we can actually do this when we come together. We're stronger. The more we band together, we are united, and we're united as a community. We can actually do this, and we will make a difference. What we need from all of you right now is please make sure to stop and pause wherever you are holding with technology. Just stop and pause. Don't buy new devices. Don't give kids any of your old devices. A lot of us have old devices sitting around the house. Don't give that. Just sit tight, hold off until September as much as you can. We will, Eretz Hashem, be creating packs across the classes come September. So just stay strong. We're all in it together, and we're all going to be supporting each other. Please sign in using the clipboards. There's QR codes to let us all know that you're here. And for those of you watching at home, just again, please sign in the link. This summer, let's give our kids the best summer ever. Thanks so much. We can do this if we do it together. Michal is here. She's roaming around. If somebody would like to ask Michal questions, how to create a pact, go to her, or if they want to hear more, she's here.